Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Film Lovers. I am one of your hosts, Sarah Adkins, and I got my other host over here. Say hi, Jonathan.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Moody, and I'm here to, have a good time talking
Yeah,
about this movie.
we are here to talk about one of my picks for this time. I picked Cabin in the Woods, so that is what we're about to fanboy on right now. Is how much we love Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, so first of all, this is podcast, so you can't see behind me, but I've got the Little Merman behind me, which was awesome. We'll talk about that, but I also wanted to showcase this is what I watched it on, which is
Oh,
there's three movies on there, and one that we're going to plan to do at some point called The Possession. I love that movie. And Sinister is pretty good too, but
yeah. So
you
you're
know,
able to find a cool Blu-ray like 3-pack like feature film thing.
yeah, I forgot where I found it. I probably found it at Second and Charles or something,
Yeah, yeah.
but I was just like, it's got all three of these movies. I can't, and I love Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it all is, everybody, it's all three of those movies, but they're in, individual discs. It's
Okay,
not
so they
like,
each got their own disc.
yeah, so it's not like one disc and three movies or something. Like sometimes they do. It's
Yeah.
annoying, but
Well, that,
or a double disc or
yeah.
something.
Well, that looks like a pretty cool find then. So if you want it on Blu-ray, be aware that there's this 3-pack out there where you can get
Exactly.
a pretty good selection.
Yeah, I like Sinister, I like Possession, and I like this one.
So we had quite a few people who starred in this movie that are well known. Mainly Chris Hemsworth, before the big Thor franchise.
Well, it's funny. This was actually made before Thor,
That's
like
what I'm
shot
saying.
before Thor, but didn't get released till after Thor.
Was
You
the
know,
first Thor technically before this? Because this was like made in like 2011, put out in like April 2012.
right? And I think the first Thor came out in 2011.
11, so about the same time, and he started filming both of these.
Well, I think he filmed this one first, and then he did Thor, and like that became his thing where he was
Yeah.
barely doing anything else other
Oh, I'm
than
sure.
Thor because they get you in like a contract at Marvel
Right.
where you play like
Well,
you do it a
well,
bunch
then
of
I'm
times.
glad that he was able to do this movie before getting sucked into that universe. Uh,
Well, Joss Whedon, who's the co-writer of this,
mhm.
also got sucked into the Marvel,
Yeah.
cinematic universe, directing Chris Hemsworth in the Avenger movies, Avengers 1 and 2.
Yeah,
So,
because I liked his character Kurt in this. Like he was a fun character. And the other main kids, like I looked them up, and I didn't really recognize a whole lot what they were in. I did notice that the stoner guy, Fran.
Frank
Uh,
Kranz, I guess.
he was in The Village, and that was the only thing I recognized.
Well, you never
Um,
watched Buffy, right? Or
Not
Angel
really,
or
no.
any of those
Uh,
things. And so Joss Whedon worked with Fran a lot,
mhm.
I think he did like Dollhouse with Eliza Dushku and stuff. I think those kind of things. And then he always wants to keep putting all these guys. So there's Fran Kranz who plays the stoner and he's just
Mhm.
amazing. I love him. And then there's Amy Acker, who is she was one of the people in the facility, but she was like, I think her name was Lynn in it and
Okay.
everything. And she was really sweet, like her character, but like she always sort of plays a sweet character. I'd love to see her play like a mean, nasty character someday, just to switch it up. But no, I absolutely adore her. She was in Buffy or Angel for the longest time. And Paul loves Angel. Like that's his but Angel and Buffy are his jam. So he loves Amy Acker. I think she's the sweetest, cutie pie ever,
Yeah, I was
you know.
wondering if this movie would have a few actors in it that might be, like callback references to some older stuff because this movie is one of those where they're kind of like referencing a lot of other horror movies and having Easter eggs and stuff like that, and callbacks, because it's supposed to be like, kind of like a horror comedy thriller about your stereotypical like comedy movie where they go to a house in the woods and all these things have to happen just like they normally do, in order to appease the gods.
Well, it's funny. Okay, so I want to talk about that because I think it is really an interesting idea. Like,
Hmm.
when you get into like the whole thing, which we will get into, but the beginning idea of them being at the cabin and basically, I guess the what is it, the thing, the door blows open,
Yeah,
cellar door blows
like,
open. They go
yeah,
down to the
little
cellar,
hacks.
and yeah, and they go down the cellar, and she reads the diary, which
Right.
unleashes the the zombie family, torture family.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I think the idea was they had all these different ways that
Yep.
it could happen because they were all taking bets on which one that they would do. Like, but
Yeah.
there was like no way there was no
Yeah,
way they would not.
taking the aspect of having the business side behind it, where they're all watching them, like queuing things up and taking bets on, okay, well, whatever artifact they pick is what monster kills them, and they have all these monsters ready to be released, was actually a really cool idea.
Well, right, yeah, yeah. So there's all these different potential releases. So,
Hmm.
it would have been cool. Like, it would cost so much money to do this, but it would have been cool if they did something else. Like, each time they had an alternate way. Like, if you watch the DVD, you could pick a
Right.
different
Like a choose your own adventure almost.
choose your own adventure. Like, yeah, so
Yeah.
you choose which monster. That would have been cool. Except, that's way more expensive than, because
Right.
I believe this movie was sort of low budget for Hollywood standards because I don't think they had like, because Lionsgate put it out, but I don't think anybody
I
was.
read the budget and it looked like they said the budget was like $30 million or something like that, and it
That's
grossed
actually
like
pretty good.
70.
I mean,
Yeah, which I read a little trivia fact on the IMDb. I don't know if you saw it, but that it said that thermos bong that he made was an actual working bong. The prototype cost him $5,000 to do.
yep. I mean, it wasn't like CGI or anything. That was a
No,
real,
it was
real
it. Like,
thing.
yeah, they actually made that thing and spent a lot of money to do it.
I was wondering, like, I guess they can't market that ever because it would cost too much, like
Right.
if they cost them 5,000 to make, they would
Yeah,
need.
prototypes are expensive. I'm sure after the prototype they could make a cheaper version of it. But it was just hilarious to read that they spent $5,000 on that prototype just
I
for that
was
scene.
That
But
was one of my
it was pretty
favorite
cool.
bits, is just like, because I totally forgot about it, and I'm like, wait, what's he doing? He's fucking,
Right.
shrinking his.
The fact that he's such a stoner saved him in the end, because they were saying that he was immune to some shit because of what he was smoking, made it to where he wasn't as foggy headed as the rest of them. He actually saw through their bullshit.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm wondering, because I guess that they had, and I want to hear your thoughts on this
Sure.
because it was an interesting concept, the idea of like the government or some kind of thing, basically,
Puppeteers.
yeah, puppeteering these people into doing this, and they only need one, right? Because they have all these different countries and everybody
Right.
doing
Every
it, and
country's attempting, and only one of them needs to be successful in order for the human race to keep going.
yeah, and then everybody else failed, even Japan, which they can even kill 9-year-olds.
Yeah. How hard is it to kill a 9-year-old?
Right. I thought that was great. And so they're like, oh, well, leave it up to the USA to fuck it
Right. Good
up.
old USA.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't, it didn't work out that way. But the thing is, like, so they needed 5 different people, right? So they
Right.
needed, and all of them are like stereotypical cliche
Yes.
characters in these horror films, which I think
Yeah.
is fucking amazing.
Right. I think that was part of the genius behind it.
Right, because usually you watch these movies and they have it, and you're like, oh
They
man,
do. Yep.
it's the whore, it's
Yep. The fool, the
the
jock,
fool, the
the
jock,
scholar, and the virgin.
yeah, exactly, all of them, and then the scholar, like, or
Yeah,
what,
the scholar.
athlete.
The scholar was going to be Holden, which is played by Jesse Williams.
Oh yes, that's right. The scholar was just
Which he had a character which I kind of kept forgetting about because I feel like his character was really quiet, and and that was Dana's little love interest for a part of it because they were making out on the couch and stuff, and he was a nice guy. When he saw the reversible mirror, he stopped, switched rooms with her, and but he didn't have a very memorable like character to me. He was just kind of like the hunky smart guy who was just kind of not there.
right, which we'll get into, I think, a little bit more of his stuff. But so they have all the 5 stereotypical characters, but how did they get them all to decide to go to the cabin? Like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like,
Well,
maybe you've
yeah.
seen it more than once, so you might know
Because
this
I know
answer.
they were trying to influence their decisions. So basically, Kurt said that his cousin had bought this place and invited them all to go out there and have this adventure. So somehow they made all that happen because even in the end, he's like Marty was like, I don't think Kurt even has a cousin. So they did really good convincing us to come out there and playing their game.
So he didn't have a cousin. So
That's
who was then
was
who
kind of
was Kurt
hinting at
talking
the end.
to?
I don't know if did he actually have conversations with his supposedly cousin, or was he just like, hey, my cousin has this cabin he's gonna let us go stay at?
Like, did his cousin just send him a letter and say, hey, I have a cabin for you? I mean, I don't know. Like, because
Releasing all these chemicals too, though, because even Marty was like, hey, Kurt's acting like a dumb jock and calling us names. Like, he doesn't act like this. This isn't his character. So, and there were all those gases coming through to make them. All of a sudden, he got a whiff, and his it's almost like mind altering that changes his personality. So they definitely altered with them to make them
that's true.
go along, and that's why that new hire was like, isn't that cheating? Well, we kind of have to, we have to push him a little bit.
Right. There was that, and there was also, like, remember, like, the first minute we meet the horror character, I love her. I was so sad she died first, but she had to. That was what they said,
Yes.
And Jules, right? Her name was Jules.
Jules.
And so she's behind the main girl, and the main girl turns around and sees her for the first time. She's blonde, which must have been also another thing of, like, the girl, them doing that because they said that they were happy that she was blonde, like she had to be the blonde bimbo, like that
and
kind of thing.
One of the females in the office did mention something about her hair dye and putting something in it that seeps through into her body chemistry.
Yeah. So, and then so they do all these different things. Like, they release all these gases, and they have like the pheromones thing. So they have, so they're going to have sex. They have to show their, but here's the other thing is it said that people were watching, that this was like being like, I guess this was a televised event or something.
Well, I don't think it was really televised. It was just the people in the office had to watch it all to make sure it went down.
I don't think that was it, because they did mention that there wasn't people, there were people watching, so they had to keep it going. Like, there was something, and I think this was sort of televised somewhere or something.
I know that the other countries all were watching each other. So I know that was an aspect too of, well, the other countries are watching this.
Maybe that's it.
So I think that was it, because when they were watching Japan and all the other countries, they had all their TVs set up that were like fail, blah blah blah. So they all were watching each other, and I think wasn't there a higher up level that was like the big bosses that were watching as well?
So like Sigourney Weaver, who we see later.
To the mass populace, but more to the people who were involved.
Well, we see Sigourney Weaver later,
Of
and she was
course.
definitely watching, and she was even on an intercom at one point trying to
Hmm.
tell them, to just die, like at this rate. And then she had to step in and try to do,
Right.
because everybody else was. But we'll get to that, I guess. So yeah, I mean, there were some great scenes. There was some stuff I really, really liked. My favorite lines in the movie were that, and can you explain to me who Mordecai is? Who was that guy? That guy who was on
Reference
the
it for
phone
me.
and was like, "Am I on speakerphone?" That was the best line. Like that was the
Oh, the
most
gas
best.
station guy.
Was he the gas station guy?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He was part of it. He basically had to be the eerie, you got to have that creepy, eerie gas station guy in a horror movie. So he was that key guy who was basically had to be creepy enough to be like, you probably don't want to go up there, you'll die, to kind of give them the choice, to set it in motion of like,
But then
hey,
why did he call the people?
to check in and just be like, hey, they're on their way up there. Like
But
they're doing it, like they're on their
he
way up there, and then give them that speech, about the whole like this has to happen for the human, that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was, but I was just like, because I totally was like thrown off, going, "Wait, why is he telling them all these things? Like, why is he,
He's just
who
trying
is
to be
this?"
all serious and I guess philosophical about it. But
But the
yeah,
gas
no,
station scene was hilarious too. I just
you
laughed
have
my
to
ass
have that.
off.
They're gonna build a railroad through here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite bit is just he's like saying the ward is like, which ward is like, don't you sass me, boy, and shit like that. And
Yeah.
I will, which war, and I'm like, I don't know which war. Can't tell
Because
which war you were in.
you got to have that creepy gas station guy who's like, oh, don't want to go down that road. You got to have that guy.
Right. But he wasn't telling them that. He wasn't warning them not to go, which was normal, the normal thing of like, oh, don't go down that, right? He
Yeah.
didn't do that. He was literally just being a dick, to them, and stuff, and like spitting at them with his
Yeah. It's
shoe.
tobacco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny. I liked him, and then like they get to the cabin, and I mean it's completely like a very much a typical Evil
You got
Dead
that Evil Dead. Yeah, you get that Evil Dead throwback with the
or
way they
cabin
angle it to
fever,
a cabin. Yeah. So that's
uh,
what I'm saying. Like, I like how they have that aspect of like throwing back to your typical horror movies. Of like, here's a creepy guy at the gas station. Here's the cabin that's in the creepy woods. And then
they're all jumping the lake, they're all having
right,
fun, but they have
yeah,
no
you gotta
idea what's
have
in
your
store.
your stereotypical moments.
Right, they're in the water in the lake, but they have no idea what's in store for them.
Right.
I love that. Like I had a fun time just, like honestly, I mean, they did such a good job just so here's my thing. You watch a lot of these movies because you and I have seen probably a ton of these. They go to the cabin, then
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
happens, something gets brought back, they all die, one
Yeah.
by one or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and there's five people. That's the typical trope. Evil Dead had five people, Cabin Fever had five people. It's usually two couples and one
Right.
extra, like kind of
Of
hanger
course.
on,
And
you
you gotta
know.
have the virgin and the shy one.
Yeah, like the shot. Yeah, oh yeah, that's cabin fever right there. Because there's the virgin. Well, I mean, I don't know if she was a virgin. I don't think she was a virgin, but there was the Jordan Ladd's character was very, you know,
Yeah,
I
you
don't know,
gotta have
sweet.
your slutty one and your like more shy mousy one.
Yeah, and then you get the shy guy and or whatever, like
Then you get your stoner guy, the party guy.
James DeBello's character in Cabin Fever. So it like, and so this movie had that stuff,
Hmm.
but I think, the thing is, I think Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard were like watching Evil Dead and Cabin Fever and all that, and we're like, we can make a better movie, like, and they did. I hate to
Yeah,
say it. Like, I love Evil Dead, and
yeah.
I probably will say that's like my favorite horror film of all time. because it's a horror film. This would
Right.
probably be up there as one of my favorite horror comedies, one of
Yeah.
them,
And I
because
like the aspect where they showed all the creatures in their little elevator boxes, like the werewolf and the ballerina with the many teeth, and there was a family with masks that kind of looked like maybe the strangers or something like that. And then you have the guy with the round puzzle box that looked almost like a Cenobite, like
Mhm.
there were a lot of horror movie callbacks, and there is a giant cobra apparently,
well,
and bat monsters and
the ballerina with the many teeth and
uh,
stuff. I've seen somebody dress up like that at horror conventions, and I'm
okay, that's
always
pretty cool.
shocked.
Yeah.
But I forgot where that came from, so I never thought like,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
even the merman, you have a picture behind you. I totally, when I first watched this, didn't expect the merman to have a face like an actual like fish. Like he's
yeah.
almost got an anglerfish face and teeth on like a merman's body is pretty weird.
Well,
And that's just the also where the horror comedy comes into it, because you got Hadley, who's like, I just want it to be the mermaid. I think it'd be cooler with the mermaid. And then how does he go out in the end? Oh shit, you got to be shitting me. The fucking mermaid bites him and eats him.
yep, exactly. He
Like,
dies via merman,
right,
which
which
I thought was pretty ironic.
Hadley was played by Bradley Whitford, which is also in The Handmaid's Tale and all sorts of stuff.
He was
Um,
in Billy Madison,
he's
and
in
I
so much stuff.
fucking love him in Billy Madison. One of
I
my
think
favorite characters.
him and Sitterson, which was Richard Jenkins, who's also in Step Brothers and the new Dahmer series. Those two, I think, were like the top billed actors almost in this, because Chris Hemsworth was just getting started with all his shit. But those two guys, when you see them together, you're just like, yes, these guys. Like, we see these guys in all this stuff, and they're actors, and I think they couldn't have picked a better two older dudes to be in that role. They really made the movie.
Which is really funny because I was just watching Dahmer, on
Yeah, I
Netflix and
haven't started
stuff,
it
and
yet.
Richard Jenkins is in it.
Yeah, he's the
So
dad.
right,
And the only reason why I know that was before looking up this is because he was the dad of Step Brothers, and I keep seeing all these, quit having this man raise children.
all those memes.
Yeah.
Those
But
are
that
fun.
is a series I'm going to start soon once I'm done with another series I'm watching. And we won't get into that series because it's new. We don't want to spoil stuff like that. But I do think that like those two actors have been in so much, and they're still in so much. And it was just a pleasure to see them in this role. Because like I said, them and Chris Hemsworth were the three that I recognized. Everybody else, it's like they were familiar looking, but I just couldn't be like, oh, I know them from this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and Sigourney Weaver, of course, which I love how she's in these horror movies as this like she's always that boss in the end, and this voice on the intercom, and she's always the one who's like, oh, don't piss off the people upstairs. It's always Sigourney Weaver.
Right. It's like,
awesome.
who can we get at the last minute who would be the perfect like director for this whole thing?
Right.
Yeah, it gets Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, she was wonderful. Sadly, I was looking at IMDb and I saw Sigourney Weaver, but but she's not on the IMDb like up in the front, and stuff.
Sure. It was a small role, but it was
well, it was a small role, but also it was like, they don't want to give it away probably, so they don't have it up in the front.
Yeah.
Because that was such a cool like thing of seeing her, and
right.
Her at the end saying, hey, look, we need you guys to.
Right.
My favorite line in that is she says, you can either die for us or with
right
with us.
You can die with everybody, or you could die for everybody.
For everybody, and then he goes, "That's a nice, enticing offer."
What? I loved his attitude about it, because he was just like, maybe we need to start over. Screw all of y'all.
Yep, definitely. I thought that was hilarious.
Save the human race. We're kind of screwed up. I just wish I could see the Titans, as they come out, before they destroy everything. That'd be cool.
Yeah. What is it? I was just, I thought it was funny because she just wanted everybody to live, and this is sort of okay. So it sort of happens to be one of the things that I always always get mad about is movies which end with them saving the world,
Right.
and everything, right? Like it ends with, oh, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice myself
Right.
and save the world, and then and then nobody knows it happened or whatever, right?
Right.
Here's a movie that has the balls to say, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna end it with a giant hand coming down and then just this
Yep.
cabin in the woods. There's no sequel. There's no,
No, everybody died. World's
everybody
over.
died. Yeah.
We chose not to save the world. We chose violence today. It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where I was, I was just like, man, that's awesome. I love that. Like I love having a movie where it ends like that, because
Right.
like I said, you don't see it, and you see the people doing that, and it just pisses me off. Like I get so angry. I was thinking about it earlier today, going, I really hope they don't die, and that they,
Right. 'Cause when Dana had the opportunity to shoot him, which she almost did, because she's like holding the gun to him, going, it's either I kill you or we all die. It's the whole human race. And he's like, I thought you were my friend. She's like, it's the whole human race. And then he lets her get bitten by the werewolf. Eventually she's like, yeah, you know what? Screw it. Like, they could have had her kill him and save the world, but I'm glad that they went with the route of her actually surviving the werewolf attack and then sitting there with him going, yeah, I just wish we could see it happen. Oh well.
Yeah.
Light one up and there go.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I just enjoyed this movie so much. What was your favorite scene?
Trying to think of the favorite scene because there's so many good. Um, I mean, like, I want to say like probably when all the elevators open up and all the monsters come out, because I really enjoyed seeing all the different types of creatures. And the fact that it was just absolute like bloodshed, and you got to see all these cool things run around the office and just kill everybody, because that was intriguing, because you're already kind of looking around when you see them in the elevators and the boxes, like, oh, what's in there, and then to see them all just kind of come out in a rampage and attack everybody. You got the weird clown, you got the bat demon, you got the giant snake, like seeing all the monsters just wreak havoc on all the like employees, like I thought that was pretty cool.
I know. So like that was one of my favorite scenes too, because it like before then, when they are trapped in that one little box, right? It
Right.
pulls back and you start seeing how many boxes that there are,
Oh yeah.
and you see so many people. So then when they get into that control room and they're like, purge or whatever,
Yeah.
and they let them start letting them out, the military people are going, and then all of a sudden they start hearing this thing. They're like, oh shit.
Oh.
And then like everybody just comes out and starts
Right.
killing them, like,
Right.
right? Trying to.
And that could have gone two different ways too, though, because when they jumped through the grave and he was tweaking with the wires, he said, I found an elevator. There's no controls down there, but I can override it from up here. So they were taking a risk by turning it on and jumping in it, not knowing what would happen to them. And had Hadley and Stedderson not been watching them and found them in the elevator, they would have been stuck in that elevator and put there in an exhibit with everybody else, So if they weren't watching, trying to find them and finish this, they wouldn't have changed it to where, they were released. They would have been stuck in there for who knows how long.
Yeah. That would have been crazy.
Well, yeah, eventually they would have died of starvation and everything. But yeah, so they thankfully they had to finish it out. So they found them pretty quick and let them out.
Yep.
But that scene where all those elevators just teeing and everybody's like, oh no. Like that was
because then they just have to shoot all the things, and some of those things could die easily, some of them could not,
Right. And it seemed like they were really hard to kill if they even were, like, because like the redneck zombie family that came up to kill them, yeah, he said he dismembered that one with the trowel, but even before that they were trying to kill him, and it seemed like they were trying pretty hard with no success.
Well, okay, so they shot at the werewolf at one point, but like couldn't kill the werewolf because they don't have
Right,
silver bullets.
right,
Like that's how you kill the
right.
werewolf. So
And even with the zombies, they weren't really attacking the brain, but there was one point where they were stabbing him in the face pretty hard. You think it would have gotten him a little more, but they seemed like they were really hard to kill.
yeah, there was at one point where they released the zombies, but it's not normal zombie. It's so they're like all taking bets, and then one girl's like,
Right.
I
Got
pick
zombies too.
zombie," and then they're like, "No, you pick regular zombies. This is torture family
Redneck
zombie.
torture family zombies. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
different. This is
this
a
is
certain family of redneck zombies, like not just regular zombies.
yeah, no, not just
Different
regular zombie.
category.
How dare you pick regular zombies, and stuff." So I don't know. Technicality that I think, but I
Yeah.
guess it was like an elephant and an elephant seal. I was
And
like,
the new guy who was joining in, who was kind of like questioning things like, why are y'all taking bets on this? This seems a little wrong. I thought he would have maybe a bigger part, but he died pretty quick once all the monsters were released.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these characters were pretty much just monster food.
Yeah.
And supposed to be because, like, the first act is the setup for everything.
Right.
The second act is all the craziness that ensues leading up to the third act, which is even crazier.
Yeah, and I think his character was more there to ask questions so we would have the information, because that if he wasn't there to be the new guy and be like, okay, so why are we doing this? Why is this happening? How else would they kind of explain all that to us? So it was kind of a
Yeah.
way, I think, for them to do that by throwing this new guy in there who's questioning the
I,
morality and asking questions.
it
That way
never
we have
bothered
more
me.
information. You know, so he was a necessary character to get that information from. He just seemed to die really quickly.
Well, it never bothered me that he asked all those questions. Like
Oh no.
it sort of was like that just seemed normal.
Right.
Like
Right.
which
It's the first day on the job, you're like, wait, so we're doing what now?
yeah, so yeah, I
This is
mean,
real?
honestly, I don't know how you get a job like that.
Right.
Like I mean, because then all of a sudden you have to know that every year or something, or
I
whatever.
don't remember how often they do it, but like they have to do the sacrifice. Otherwise, these gods underneath destroy the world. What would you do with that knowledge? All of a sudden, your reality would be broken. How can you live a normal day knowing like below the surface of the earth were actually these titans that would destroy the world if these things didn't happen? Like I would feel you wouldn't be able to live a normal life after that. Everything would be kind of like just jaded.
It's so funny. You pick these you pick like Satanic Panic and then this, and they're kind of similar in a sense, like it's a ritual and like
Yeah.
things don't go the way they're hoping it does. Because like, there's that one scene where they're all celebrating, like they're like
Right.
tequila, yeah,
We
everything's
did
going
it.
right. Oh
We
my
did
goodness,
it.
we did it. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? Like that guy's still alive. Uh-oh,
Right.
you know.
And that's kind of a nice twist though, like you said, where like the world actually does end. Like they don't get to save it. It's like they think that they completed their sacrifice and they summoned whoever they wanted to or appeased whoever they wanted to and they're celebrating. But no, the victims are actually like, underdog, I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna ruin all your plans.
I know.
You know?
Well, I mean, he was the one the whole time just telling everybody like we're puppets. This is just
Right.
something's going on here.
Right.
And he was the one hearing voices of the little girl or whatever. And
Right. He actually could hear all the stuff that they were doing and see it more clearly, whereas everybody else was under all the whatever they were pumping through the air and actually just falling for it. Whereas whatever was in his weed was keeping him clear.
Of that stuff, yeah.
Right.
And there's one of my
I guess it pays
favorite
to be the stoner in the party sometimes, huh?
yeah, one of my favorite bits is because you see the movies and they read the Latin, and then
Yeah.
bad things happen when you read the
Right.
Latin. And so he's like, don't read the Latin part.
Right. Yeah. Very common sense. That would be me. I was like, you found a way. There's Latin. Why? How many movies have you seen? Why would you read it? Why?
Well, I'm so glad they didn't do that cliche thing you see in all these movies where the person will go, Well, haven't you seen a horror movie? You don't do
Right.
this. They
Right.
never once say
No,
mention.
no, they
I,
never once did that.
I don't think they did. Did they mention like they felt like they were in a horror movie? I don't think they did.
I don't think they really referenced that at all. Like there were plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities where they could have, but they just didn't, you know. Because even when the cellar door popped open, all I could think of about was Evil Dead with Helena down in the basement and shit like that too, you know.
Right. And all of a sudden they're like, nope, we're not going to mention horror, like horror films, because
Right.
that's too on the nose. And the typical thing for like indie films or whatever is to mention horror films, like, oh my god, this sounds like I'm in a bad B movie and stuff like that.
Right.
And this didn't do that, and I applaud that because it still, they had every moment in the world, especially when the zombies were attacking, to go,
Right.
oh my god, this feels like I'm in a fucking horror movie. And they
Right.
didn't. They just acted like, what if this situation were to happen? What
Yeah.
would you do, in this situation? So like even even one guy says we should stick together, and they're like, no, no, no,
Right.
no, we need to change that, right? But
Right.
like,
He's like, no, we need to make him change his mind and make them split up. So let's give him this chemical. So he's like, wait, never mind.
it's a bad idea to go together. We should split up,
Right.
which was so funny because, and everybody was like, yeah. And I think, and the one dude, the stoner guy's like, no, what? No, that's
What?
no,
No. Let's all
right?
go to our own rooms, and then they lock them in their rooms.
I know. And he's the only one the whole time because he's immune to all this stuff. We don't know
Right.
that
He's
when we're
like,
watching it.
and he's just like, and then when he does get locked in this room, and he breaks that lamp, he finds the camera, and he's like, wait, am I on a reality TV show?
Yeah. Like
I was
that's what it
worried though
was.
when he said that and he got grabbed by the zombie. I was like, so if he thinks he's on a reality TV show though, would he be hesitant to kill the zombies thinking they're actors? Or would he be thinking that he's still fighting for his life and try to kill him? Like that would be a weird mindset to be in, is thinking all of a sudden, what if these are actors and you're on a TV show and it's not real, and then being afraid to hurt somebody and getting yourself killed because of that.
I don't know. I think if you were on a reality TV show and they had people pretending to be zombies attack you, then you have every right in the world to still attack back,
Oh yeah, you definitely
because
do. But I'm just wondering, like, what would have gone through his head at that moment, being like fight or flight. Like, are these real people? Are these actually zombies? Like, but once they actually started trying to hurt you, that's definitely where I would, even if they were actors, if they almost killed me, I would definitely get them back.
right,
I wish they would have showed us, because they they wanted to give the illusion that after he was drug out of that window and stuff, that he was killed, and even showed his blood going through the thing, 'cause they're collecting the blood, and even the employees thought, oh, the fool is gone, time to move on to the next kill. And I guess what's weird though is they collected his blood and moved on, but technically he didn't die, but his kill still counted towards the ritual, which is weird because he didn't actually die. So that's a little, I don't know
well,
about
I
that.
mean, because his blood went through it, right?
Right. But still,
He
but he
lost
still
some
did.
blood, but he didn't.
Right.
He
But
didn't
he didn't
die.
die like they thought he did. So when you think the whole thing would be botched in the first place, when they realized that he didn't actually die, but I
I
guess that
guess
was them
but the
changing
idea
it
was
around,
that
going,
he
okay, now
just
we
had
have
to
to kill him.
die. Like
Yeah,
he,
because some of them had to be in order and some of them didn't, it seemed.
well,
Um,
I thought it all had to be in order,
that's what I was
but
thinking
then,
too. But because they had the
but
whore
they said
guy
the
and then the
first girl
jock
had to
guy.
die. She was supposed to, like, she had
Right.
to die
And then the
first.
the virgin didn't necessarily have to die as long as she was the last one alive. You know. So it was
Which, like, so what if he had killed her
right. I
and
guess
he
it would be
survived?
okay. I guess it I don't think the ritual will be complete though unless he died. I think she was the only one that was optional. So I think she could. It didn't matter if she lived or died, as long as she was the last survivor. If she did live,
So like if she had killed him, but
She
didn't
would she
die.
could have lived. It wouldn't have mattered had she lived or died after that, long as everybody else was dead
I
before
don't know.
her.
I think all of them had to die. I think all of them had
Well,
to die.
that's what they were saying though. They said that the virgin was optional as long as she was a lot, long as everybody else was
Okay.
dead, that she could live. But that was just kind
That
of,
didn't happen.
yeah, it was just one of those things where you kind of had to think about what they were saying though, of like, okay, but I mean, like, they got his sacrifice, but technically he didn't die, so then they had to go back and kill him. But I wish, what I was trying to get to is, I wish that they would have shown him killing that zombie with the trowel though. I kind of would like to have seen that because they showed the remains and stuff, and him like, I killed the zombie with the thing. I was like, ooh, I kind of wish I would have seen that.
I do too. There's a couple things like, I mean, they kind of keep cutting back into the uh what is it, the government stuff going
Right.
on. So there are a couple things where they could have probably kept it going and then went back to there, but they, I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, all in all, I mean, throughout it, I was just like, oh my God, this is happening. This is
Oh
happening.
yeah.
What the fuck? What?
It's one of those movies you kind of you have to watch more than once, because when you watch it the first time, you're like, oh, okay. And then when you watch it again, you can watch it in the mindset knowing what they're actually doing. And I feel like you get to enjoy it twice that way in two different mindsets.
Well, also you look and you see probably things you never like.
Right.
The only reason I'd want to watch it again is for seeing all the different creatures that they have
Hmm.
because they go so fast with
Yes.
everybody, and like they have the clown who apparently the person doesn't shoot him in the face and the head, which they should have shot him in the head. They just kept shooting him in the chest, and I'm like,
Yeah.
shoot him in the fucking head. And of course he
I
comes
wonder why
in.
he wasn't going down. I was like, is he a supernatural clown? Because he was shot quite a bit.
Well, he was their Pennywise, I believe.
Probably.
Like I think he was the Pennywise. Like you said, there's
I saw
very
Cenobite. Yeah.
Cenobites, there's the strangers people. I don't know the ballerina. The ballerina chick was original and different. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty.
You got your werewolf, you got your zombies.
Yeah, the redneck family zombies,
Hmm.
the ones who own that diary, the girl who owns that diary, and she was tortured by, people or whatever. Um, we forgot to mention though, like Chris Hemsworth's death was fucking weird.
Oh yeah.
So they have some kind of like force field or something
Right.
set
Yes.
up, and so he tries to jump with his uh, what is it?
The ATV, like
Motorcycle.
motorbike.
Yeah, motorbike. And he goes and jumps and it goes bam right into
Yep.
some kind of force
And he
field
and
thing.
he just bounces all the way down, sparks going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Watch this. Like, of course I know it's gonna happen. I just watched it. It's definitely one of those moments where you're like, oh no, like that smack. You're just like, oh God.
Well, even when you're watching it, you're just like, even if you hadn't seen it, like I hadn't seen it in a while, so I forgot. But I was like, this can't be good. Like the way they're setting this up,
I
there's
remembered it was going to happen and I was waiting for it. And even earlier in the movie, they showed the bird. They showed the bird doing it. So they kind of showed the force field earlier when they drove the RV through the tunnel, and the bird tried to fly and hit the barrier as well.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was very much almost like Truman Show-ish, where it's like they're watching these people and have them kind of enclosed in this little reality. It was pretty cool.
I liked it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's one of those movies that, like, yeah, you said you can watch it over and over again and kind of pick up new things each time.
Right.
And I think the Blu-ray actually has like commentary and other stuff for special features.
Yeah.
I didn't explore it as much as I should have.
Yeah, I
So
had kind of one of those cheapo $5 bin DVD copies of it, so I didn't get any special perks or anything like that.
yeah, I think it does. I could be wrong. It might not have it in this because this is the three disc one, but it's one of those movies that, like, oh, it must have it because and it must have it on yours too, maybe. Because they mentioned in like the DVD mentions the commentaries and how apparently this was Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard's like a mercy movie because at that point they had just done a bunch of different stuff. I think they were part of Serenity, aka, Firefly. They were part of all these different projects, and they weren't getting any work at that time. Like nothing was happening. So they were like, they shut themselves in like, I don't know if they did a cab. That would have been funny if they actually shut themselves in a cab. I think it was a hotel, and they basically wrote for 3 days straight, or whatever, this idea, and made the script.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to think that this movie, I don't know how many times it's been rewritten since then, but the first draft being 3 days, I can do that by myself. I don't think I could do that with another person.
But I'm sure it was fun throwing these ideas around, because you could be like, oh, so what if there's this mermaid man, or what if he really wants to see it and gets killed by it? Like I could see two people just shooting these really cool ideas back and forth. Because it's one of those movies where it's a fun movie, so you can have these comical things, and oh well, what if the stoner lives?
Right.
I think that would be a fun writing process for a movie like this.
Well, I think, and it's interesting to say that, because I think that's, the idea of a really good script, right? Really, like one of the best scripts or whatever, are movies that you don't know where they're going to go, right?
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to be, if the people are going to live, if they're going to die, if the killer's going to catch them this time, if it's not going to catch them at all, you have no idea, right? So you watch this movie and you're like, the whole time you're on your edge of your seat going, what the hell is going on? Like, what's going to happen next?
Right.
And when you first watch it, right? Obviously,
Right.
when you see it like 2 or 3 times, you kind of start
you're
you're
piecing it all together.
Yeah, you remembered things, but
Right.
I mean, this was like the second time I've seen it, so I remember there was the government, but
Right.
it'd been so long since I'd seen it that I was like, what happened? Like, what's going? Like, I don't remember this stuff, which is great. I like that. So I watch it because I don't think I've seen it since it first came out.
Oh
Like,
wow.
I think I rented it when it first came
Mhm.
out, probably on Netflix or something, and then I was like, this is a fucking amazing movie, because I definitely did not go to the theater to watch this. I would remember that. I would definitely remember that, because
Yeah, see, I've seen it a few times, so I remembered everything that was happening, but it had also been a little while, at least a year or so. So it's always nice rewatching it though, because like I said, that first time you watch it, you don't know what's going to happen. So you're just kind of in this state of, what did I just watch? What just happened? Did that just really happen? Like it's a lot to take in. So watching it multiple times is highly recommended.
definitely. And so it's one of those movies that I'm just like, this was, you watch it the one time, you want to watch it again and again and again, and eventually, so I don't know. I like, I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, that like, especially the ending. I forgot about the ending. I'm pretty sure I've seen it all the way to the end, but I might not have,
Yeah.
because I didn't no, I did, because I remember Sigourney Weaver coming at the end. I remember her showing up, but then again, you said she's done this. It
Yep.
seems like she's done
She's
this
done this a few
before.
times. I can't name the movies right now, but it's always kind of one of those key cards to kind of have Sigourney Weaver be the voice you hear, where it's like management calling you, going, did you do what you were supposed to be doing? Don't make me come down there, And she even kind of had that voice in
Casting.
She did that in Finding Dory too, though, which I thought was a cute parents for a kids movie at the aquarium. She was the overhead voice, and then they did a little directing scene where they had to direct them through like these shafts and stuff, and it looked almost like an Alien reference. And she's always got those
Nice.
cute little cameo voices and stuff. And if you're in the horror community, you know her voice. You hear her voice and you're like, oh no, they got Sigourney's coming, don't piss off her. Like
Don't piss Sigourney off.
no, she's definitely one of the big scream queens, a big well-known names, and like she's a trademark, man.
Absolutely, and I love her. I adore her. We need more Sigourney Weaver movies. I think if I'm correct, she's in like, and I mean, this has been out for a while, so it's not a spoiler, but she's like briefly in the new Ghostbusters Afterlife movie and
Oh, I'm
stuff.
sure she is.
Well, I mean, Ghostbusters was a big part of her,
Oh yeah.
career, but
Yeah.
uh, I was so scared because it didn't come until like the end. And I
Mhm.
remember seeing that she was in it. I was like, "Where's Sigourney?" I'm like getting frustrated. But I love that. I love that franchise, and I think they are doing really good with that. Now they're back. But and speaking, that's a horror film lovers thing because that's what got me into horror was Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
the original. So anyway, but I'm very happy. Like when you picked this, I was like, okay, I own it, so I can easily watch it.
Same. Like, it was a movie I own too, so it was one of those months where it's like, well, it's my pick, and you know what? I didn't pick it. Yeah, I didn't pre-pick it. I was like, what's another movie that I really like? I was like, oh, we both love this movie. We both have it, and it's a killer movie. So like, yeah, why didn't we think of this one before? So I was like, let's do it.
Yep. And so it's funny because this season is an interesting season because we're gonna do 12 episodes, but generally speaking, we do 10. So we're gonna do 10 the next season and next season, but we are gonna do 12. So this would normally, since I think this is the 10th
Mhm.
episode, this would normally be the last episode of the season, but we got 2 extra seasons this year.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what. Don't ask me why I picked that as the season, but I just wanted to, give us a chance to do that, and I think that's good. This is the 20th one, not the 20th one we've done, because I think there's two before you came to be a solid
Yeah.
co-host of.
Yeah, and like I said, we got two more for this year. The next one I haven't seen yet, which is going to be Oculus, so that's going to be a new watch for me. And then for the
I got that
holidays,
coming on Blu-ray like I ordered that
right?
today, so I'm like, it's coming on like October 12th, so I'm like, all right, I'll have that
You'll
before.
have it perfect timing. And
Yeah,
then
perfect timing.
we're going to end our holiday season with a Christmas movie, watching Krampus, which is another one of the favorites that I own, which I've seen a million times. So I'll be happy to talk about that one. I'm excited.
And you have to pick the next ones too, because I've already picked mine for the
Yeah,
next
we're going to
three
work on our
seasons.
list. Work on our list for the next seasons and get some good ones out there for
Yeah,
everybody.
hopefully we'll keep doing this for next at least three. Like my idea is 5 seasons is generally a pretty good amount for stuff or whatever, unless it's Indie
Hmm.
Film Cafe is going to keep going for as long as possible. But that's sort of how all of these started anyway. So it's kind of our
Right.
our baby. If we quit that, I don't know what what we can even do. But the rest of it, all the other ones that we had, and I forget I told you I showed you this earlier, but I picked this up.
Yes,
The
Jonathan got
Loved
himself a
Ones.
copy of The Loved Ones at his local dollar store. And
Dollar Tree had it, and I looked at it. I was like, wait, I don't think I own it yet because I know. I mean, we saw it, but
yeah,
I think I rented it or something
yeah. If I
online.
see a good copy of it out pretty cheap, I'll grab it too. Because that is one, it's one of my
Do you,
favorites. I really enjoyed it, which is why it was on my list.
how
So,
did you see it the last time?
um, when we did the podcast, or when I first
Yeah,
saw it,
when
when
you
we did
did
the
the
podcast,
podcast.
I want to say I watched it on not Tubi, but that Pluto TV.
Okay.
Pluto TV had to watch some commercials, but I
I
did
think
watch
I
it
had
on
to do
there.
it. That's where I think I seen it. I
Yeah,
think you
I
told me it was
can't
on there.
remember how I watched it the first time. Like my ex was a big horror movie guy, so it just may have been one of the ones that when it was released, it was on our list of stuff to watch, and stumbled across it and remembered it. Um,
I was just like, I saw it at the Dollar Tree, and I'm like, oh, that means people are gonna buy it. Like
Good,
other people who have not probably doesn't even don't even know anything
right?
about that movie are gonna be like, what's this movie? It looks like a horror film. That's perfect for October. I'll pick it up
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
good. I
everything.
wanted to
Yeah.
get in the hands of more people because it is a pretty good underrated movie, Australian movie. And if y'all haven't listened to our podcast on the loved ones yet, make sure you go
Please
back
do,
and listen to
especially if
it.
you've already seen it. If you haven't seen it, please go
Watch it
buy it
first.
from Dollar Tree and
Right.
watch it because I think it was shockingly I'd never heard of it. That's the beauty of this show is
Right.
there's movies that we have heard of that we both have heard of and we both love. And then sometimes there's ones you've heard of and maybe you don't love, but maybe I love. and then there's ones that you love and I've never heard of, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Right,
So
right. And there, sometimes there's also ones that we remember really liking, so we pick them and then we watch them and we're like, it's a little different than I remember.
exactly, but
It's an
I mean,
adventure.
I don't think so far. I don't think there's anything I didn't like. Like even like especially like because we both I think have this a similar taste when it comes to horror, especially with horror comedy, and stuff. So I know there are horror comedies
Right.
we're gonna really like, but like we just did You're Next. If you guys have not listened to that episode, please do. But we did You're Next, and we're gonna do a bunch of other movies that are a little bit more, I don't know, more popular and stuff, which I try not to do too much of that because, right?
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want to do stuff that everybody else is already doing,
Right. That's why, because there are a few movies that I would consider my favorite, that I'm a little hesitant to do just because they're more widely known. But you never know. We may throw one or two in, as long as it's not everyone.
Well, it's funny because a lot of these are like the newer movies of like 2000s and up. And I mainly did that specifically because I have 80s horror films and I
Right.
have 90s horror films. And this is like my 2000 horror films,
Right.
kind of show without calling it that because that sounds terrible. But horror film lovers. So then
Right.
Horror Blood and Coffee, which I also do, is more new stuff like, coming out this year and 2022, 2021 kind of thing. So those are, I love that. Next season we will have more special guests. That's my plan, is to start adding people on there. I'm gonna start, asking people by the thing. But what I want to let everybody know is we've got November and December, and then we're going to take a 2-month break. And then we'll come back in March and do March to December. So should be a good time. And it'll be there with 80s horror films, 90s horror films, Hooked on Hitchcock, all the shows. We'll be back next season as planned. I don't know, and until Sarah gets sick of me and then is like, I'm done with the show. Or,
It's only once a month, like it's fine.
it's when I start asking her, can you do this show? Can you do that
Right.
show? And she's like, God, Jonathan, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. But yeah, so it's fun. It's
Right. But we got 2 more episodes to go, and then we'll be 2-month hiatus, and then we'll be back. But overall, like, I think to wrap it up, I think this movie, is one that I really enjoy. You really enjoy. I recommend watching it more than once to catch everything in it. And it was just a fun movie.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those films I could definitely watch over and over again. Even knowing all the stuff that's going
Right.
on, because I think it's more fun knowing.
Yeah, I do too. And it's a good movie, where if somebody be like, hey, what movie do you want to watch tonight? And they haven't seen it, throw it on.
Did you watch it with Cody?
Oh yeah, he's the one that owned it. It
Oh,
was one of
okay.
his favorites.
There you go. I was gonna say, so there you go. He watched it with you. I did not watch it with anybody. I watched it by myself. But that was fun. Because it's a movie that, like, I could see myself watching this by myself, like
Oh
being
yeah.
sick or something, and being like, "What's on? What can I put on?" Now, because I hadn't seen it in so long, and I didn't remember a lot. Now I know, like, hey, I really like that. Let me watch it like once a year or something.
Right.
We'll see if that happens, because I don't watch. It doesn't seem like I watch anything that I'm not reviewing.
Oh,
Like,
well, you're constantly reviewing stuff, so I can see you not
yeah.
being able to fit normal viewing onto your schedule.
Well, my normal viewing is TV shows, and even that right now, I've started the Hollywood Boulevard
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel. So everybody, you can check out the Hollywood Boulevard YouTube channel. And it'll have more like TV shows and movies and Hollywood stuff, in there. But so now when I watch it, it's like, okay, I'm watching this to possibly review it later, when I'm done with it. Yeah, I just did like the Law and Order premiere that they had and
Hmm.
stuff, where they had SVU, organized crime, and Law and Order together, like in one case. So they were all like 3 episodes, all each of the different shows connected. I thought it was amazing. And so I was like, I'll review that. I'm gonna be reviewing Dahmer with Jackie Hall. Gonna be
You just can't
reviewing
watch anything without reviewing it.
that. Well, it just seems like a waste.
Right.
If I watch something, like, why am I watching this?
To
Now I
enjoy
gotta
it.
review it. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna do the Munsters too.
Yeah, I just watched it yesterday.
I'm gonna watch it, and I think I know I want to have at least a video of it for Hard Blend Coffee,
Hmm.
because it is with Sam probably reviewing it, because otherwise I just feel like, why the fuck not? Especially if it's terrible, like, then I just wasted my time watching something terrible. But if I like review it, at least something came out of watching something terrible or boring or whatever. And I don't know what you thought of the Munsters. I don't know if you want to say what you thought of the Munsters, but I'm not a huge Rob Zombie fan. I like a couple of his things, but and I collect all of them. I have
Right. And
almost all.
it's hit and miss for me because one of my favorite movies is House, Thoughts, and Corpses, which one of the reasons why I haven't done it on this podcast is because it is more of a popular movie,
Mm,
and Devil's Rejects. But
Devil's
those were my
Rejects is my
two
favorite.
those are my two classics, and after that, like things
I think we
went
could
a
do
different way
Devil's
for me.
Rejects if you ever want
But
to. I mean,
yeah, we might pick one of those for for another season.
another
Um
season. And that's up to you. I already picked
yeah,
mine, so I'm done. Unless
yeah.
unless we keep going from season 5, where 2025. I didn't even notice that, by the way. 2000 and 2022, right, is the second
Hmm.
season. So season 3 will be
Oh,
2023, fourth
perfect lineup.
24. Yeah, it's a perfect lineup. Like, I
Perfect
didn't even
lineup.
realize that. I was like, because we started the show in 2020 and ended it in 2021, that I never noticed that it was going to keep going like that. So
Yeah,
very cool.
very cool. Worked out
Yep.
just perfectly on that one.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
So if you guys, there'll be links at the bottom for different things. If you want to check out Indie Film Cafe, that's where we do a lot of our stuff. The pot being there. Also, we've got Patreon, where for $1, only $1, you'll get a Patreon only review at the end, the last Friday of every month. We will review a movie. Have you been on that yet? I want to say
I don't think so.
no, you
I don't
haven't.
I don't honestly don't know. I can't keep up.
I don't think you have yet,
I
but
don't think I have.
not yet. There's still time. We're gonna be doing that as well. As Paul says, as long as people pay us, we'll do it.
Right.
So give us $1. You can listen. The one we just did was Birdemic 2, The Resurrection. Oof, that was rough. So that'll come out tomorrow, which will be Friday, but not tomorrow when this is released, because this will be released on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month. So thank you guys for checking this out. Also, check out indiefilmcafe.reviews, which is our website, or sickflickproductions.com, which has some of the podcast stuff. So until next
Till
week,
then,
where we're going to be doing Oculus.
Oculus.
That'll be
All right.
fun.
Can't
All right.
wait.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.